Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 12, 2021 Merriam City Council meeting. I'd like to start our meeting off this evening by asking everyone to please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Sissom.
Here.
Councilmember DeBold.
Here.
Councilmember Hands.
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Here.
Councilmember Naff.
Here.
Councilmember Neal.
Here.
Councilmember Pape.
Here.
Councilmember Silvers.
Here.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Here.
Very good. Next item is public items. Members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters that do not appear on the agenda. Comments about items on the regular agenda will be taken as each item is considered, and there is a 5-minute limit on public items. This is all in accordance with the governing body rules and procedures, and of course, the city reserves the right to refuse public comments that are personal, impertinent, or slanderous. We have a sign-up sheet for public items. It was out front. No one has signed up this evening. You may have not known that that sign-up sheet was out there, so I want to make sure I open this up to anyone who may want to come forward and make a public comment. This would be the time to do so. Go ahead. All I need for you to do is come to the podium, state your name and address for the public record.
Nancy Hammond, 5845 Perry Lane, Merriam, Kansas. And I have a couple things, actually. Actually, I wanted to say the handicap swing is phenomenal. It's a big hit. My nephew got to swing for the first time in 28 years.
Wow.
He has muscular dystrophy, and he's inviting all of his friends. And we also told Children's Mercy Hospital. So that is phenomenal. Thank you. Great job on that, guys.
Yeah.
I do have one issue. We have a lot of speeding. I think we have all probably heard the speeding issues in Merriam. When I was talking to a lot of people, maybe if we put like speed bumps in the main arteries was one that they were requesting. Perry Lane would be a main artery. Knox, of course, 55th would be a main artery. I was also going to see if I could request a stop sign in Perry Lane by Harker Drive, because there's a lot of speeding. I don't know if you knew, but not too long ago, probably about 8 years ago, somebody ran through the culvert and right through my house. And it's also happened to about 4 other neighbors. And we're really skittish when it comes to like children crossing for, Harker School, Merriam, things like that. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a public safety issue. So we've barely been watching that, and that's probably one of the main issues. The other one, there is a house, and I was referred, 10211 56 Terrace. The roof is caved in, the windows are busted in, and last night we had a couple of delinquents sitting in there smoking pot. So I thought I'd bring that issue up as well, so we don't have that issue coming around here. So, and that's about it. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much, and particularly for your comments on our swing. Anyone else? Okay, I'll go ahead and close out public items. And the next section of the agenda is the consent agenda. We only have one item on the consent agenda, and that's consider approval of the minutes of the City Council meeting that was held on June 28th, 2021. And as such, I'll go ahead and accept, unless there's any discussion about that item, I'll go ahead and accept the motion in a second. Bob Pape?
Mayor, I'd move the council-approved consent agenda item number 1.
Motion made. Mr. Silvers?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember DeBold.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Naff.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Pape.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Very good. Next area, discussions, mayor's report. This is the second quarter, 2021. We're going to discuss our employee service awards. And again, we used to do this annually, but because that became kind of a chore, when we have as many employees as we do, we kind of cut it down to doing it quarterly, and that way it's more timely as well. Mr. Engel, did you want to take over on this? Yeah.
So this is our quarterly, if you'll recall, we used to do this every year, so this is where we recognize our any value that ends in 5 or 0. So I was gonna say 20, but we have some 25, 30, and 35-year employees. So this will be the first time we've done it in over a year. So we have 3 individuals that are gonna be recognized this evening. We'll start with 5 years of dedicated service to the police department, Trey Daniels.
Somehow figure out how we're going to do this. There we go. Very good.
Awesome, thank you.
Our next employee to be recognized with 15 years of dedicated service to the Public Works Department, that's Halen Cubble.
Wonder where you got that tan from, huh?
And then finally, with 20 years of dedicated service to the Merriam Police Department, Christopher Brokaw.
I remember the first day he came to work for us. He looked exactly like he did back then.
No, I can help.
So, look. While we're talking about employees and service, we have an employee who is not a stranger to the city of Merriam that has turned in his paperwork, and he's decided to hang it up and retire. I've known this guy longer than any other Merriam officer that certainly currently works. In fact, many of you might know I started in 1979, and Charlie Yoakum, Charlie, raise your hand. He was a police officer here when I started. In fact, I met him in the very first days of working here. He was kind of my supervisor, so to speak, as an officer, and he showed me around. He worked a lot of years on this police department, and he's done a lot of great things, working 32 years for the city of Merriam, over 3 decades. He retired after 32 years in 2009. And while most people would have probably went on and did something else, Charlie decided to stay here and work in a different capacity on the civilian side. And he went to work as a civilian specialist. And he's worked here since then. So I have to add up all the years, but it's, how many is it? Do you know, Charlie? 44 years. I'm positive that that's the record for any employee in the history of the city of Merriam. It takes an awful lot to stay anywhere for 41 years, and I can tell you, particularly as a police officer, as a community service officer, because while you don't carry a gun, you still put up with many of the same pressures and stresses. But there's probably one reason why Charlie stayed here this long. He's not from Merriam. I think you grew up in Olathe, is that right? Where his family grew up for many, many years, generations. But he came here to Merriam and he worked here for all those years because he apparently liked working here. There's plenty for him to do here, and I can guarantee you he couldn't have gotten through that many years without giving a lifetime of service. Got some highlights which are kind of interesting. Again, some of these I kind of share and remember. He back when he first started, he had to buy his own gun. It says here, I didn't realize this, but his second day as an officer, he was told to work the midnight shift, and he worked it by himself with 2 days. We didn't have a field training program back in those days. It was kind of like the academy, and then they hand you the keys, and hopefully you made it. Said he was given 6 rounds of ammunition, handcuffs, and a street guide. And he said he also remembers driving a Pontiac Le Mans when he started, and that car is actually still here when I started, and it was pretty nasty then, so I can only imagine. Many changes in the years that he served here in terms of procedures, people. You probably worked under, at least 3, 4, well, how many chiefs did you work under? 5 chiefs, something like that? 7? Wow. So, in conclusion, I want to thank you, Charlie, not only as the mayor, but personally for all the time that you spent here and all the loyalty and the dedication. And the citizens of Merriam owe you a great debt. I know you were paid, but it doesn't come close to what you deserve to have. And I hope and wish that you have a wonderful, happy, and healthy life going forward. Thank you very much. And there's one last thing that was probably even more important. The primary reason he made it through 41 years is sitting next to him, and that's his wife, Bemby. She was there the whole time, and I'm sure she can share a lot of stories that we may or may not want to hear. But thank you, Bemby, for being there for him. 48 years. Great. Thank you very much. All right. Next is a proclamation. And this is a proclamation that talks about Parks and Recreation. And I read these from time to time, so please bear with me as I try to struggle through this one. Whereas Parks and Recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout the country, including Merriam. And whereas our parks and recreations are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our community, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreational services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of local tax base, increased tourism and the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. And whereas parks and natural recreational areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the United States House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of Merriam recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now I, Ken Sissom, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim July 2021 as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Merriam, proclaim this 12th day of July 2021. Anna, where you at? This is our director, and that's for staff here. If you work for Anna, please stand up. Obviously, she couldn't do it without you. We've made a lot of great strides in park and recreation in the last several years, and we continue to see a lot of excellence in that area, so thank you very much. And thank you for being here tonight. think the proclamations are getting longer too, by the way. Under council items this evening, we have a CIP update. Jim McDonald. Director, how are you this evening?
Very well, and yourself?
Good.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have your, let's get this started here. It's kind of short and sweet, but I have your July CIP update. The 2021 Mill and Overlay Program is substantially complete. There's a few items left on that list on Goodman. We have some pavement markings left to complete and some manhole adjustments to complete on Goodman. We anticipate the sod to be completed in September. Approximately, as of today, approximately 99% of the substandard curb and sidewalk has been replaced along East Frontage Road from 67th to 75th. We moved 3 street lights between 75th and 74th closer to the roadway because we shortened the roadway up where we had that old turn lane into the hospital. And then we have 1 street light left to move, which is at 74th and East Frontage on the corner to accommodate the new ADA ramp. We're able to get that squeezed in during this project. So, weather permitting, all concrete work is scheduled to be completed by next week on that project. A 2021 sidewalk maintenance program, the substandard sidewalk and curb sections have been removed and replaced along 60th and 60th Terrace. Currently, they are working on Knox and 61st Street. They were forming up the sidewalks today. Plan to get concrete in this week, and they anticipate by the end of next week to have all the sidewalks and curbs replaced in that area. Substantial completion date for all these projects is August 21st, and we're on schedule. And the last one I have is the West Vernon Place Professional Engineering Study. Preliminary engineering study, BHC Roads is still working on the proposal options, and we anticipate them to be scheduled by August 16th, and they'll give us the results. So, that's all I have for those items. You got any questions on those? Yes.
Hands?
I don't have questions on those, so. I have other questions,
Oh, yes,
however.
or anything else,
Okay,
yes.
Okay.
You have me.
Are they related to the CIP?
Well,
Okay.
maybe. So I noticed on 69th Street, west of East Frontage Road, there's a lot of torn up sidewalks, but that's not us, right?
No, we did not do, we did not do any sidewalk on 69th. We're doing a streetlight project in there, but I believe Kansas Gas is doing, tearing out sidewalks and replacing gas lines in that neighborhood also. But we're doing a streetlight project on 69th, between 69th and 70th, in that neighborhood.
Okay, so it's gas company, we
Yes,
think.
most likely that'd be gas. I'd have to check for sure, but I know they are doing a lot of service lines in that area.
Okay, it's always so hard to tell because everybody has their subcontractors
Yeah.
doing stuff.
You had other questions,
I
right?
do have
Okay.
one other
Go
one.
right ahead.
And then I hit the railroad crossing on 67th Street for West Frontage just at the right time this morning. So they were moving their equipment to the south.
They did not close the West Frontage Road yet as of today. We anticipate the next day or two. We're kind of on railroad time. They're working all their way south. They were in Olathe, I saw over the weekend. They don't give us very much time. Basically, we're going to wake up and they're going to close the roads.
Yeah, I keep warning the surrounding neighbors, but,
Yeah, and it's supposed to have been last week, and then I think they had rain delays or some other reason, and
okay.
now
I
it's this
thought
week.
maybe when I saw the equipment going down the,
They're getting close.
okay.
Yes.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Neal?
Is the BHC engineering existing condition evaluation, is any of that available just to look at or preliminarily?
I have not seen anything yet. They gave us kind of a rough draft, but we asked them to correct some of the items they had in there, some of the spelling and things like that, and so there's just a rough draft that we're not publishing yet.
Okay. Do you know when, will that be just, will we wait until you have the proposal options, or are we just gonna, or is that separate?
Let's say their completion date for that is August 16th, and that's when they'll give us a proposal, and then we can go through it and see what's in there.
Okay. Anybody, Mr. Silvers?
Again, this kind of goes outside the realm of what you were originally talking about, but as you know, a few months ago, a utility pole was hit on County Line Road. I spoke to you about the fact that the old broken pole is still there and standing with a big hole next to it.
Yep.
Is there any way we can contact the utility and just find out?
We already have twice.
Okay.
And our hands are tied. It's whenever, last thing they told us, there was one utility left, and they cannot remove that pole until the other utility has removed it. And so I hate to say this, but our hands are tied with that. We can contact them and tell them we need it removed, and they'll say they'll get to it when the other utility removes that utility.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
I have a
Go right ahead.
follow-up to that just kind of came to mind. So is that something that's part of the franchise fee agreement, that they have to come out and repair all that stuff? Is there a timeline associated with it? Like, we're just kind of say, please?
I'm not aware of any timeline that they
Okay.
have so many days. I mean, they
Yeah.
put the new pole up, and now they have a utility, whether it's cable or Google or something along that line that has to remove their utility. It's on their pole.
Okay.
And they can pull it down, because they can't remove their existing utility.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your updates. Staff items, Mr. Engel?
Thank you. None at this time. Be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any questions of staff.
Okay, for the benefit of the members of the audience that may not be aware of that, we have a obviously short meeting this evening, and that's kind of by design. Number one, we didn't have many things to put on there anyway, but it works out well because we have a city council budget work session, which all of you are welcome to stay and listen to. We will have it in this room, and it'll be immediately following this meeting, which I think is about to come to an adjournment, unless you have anything further to add. Any questions of Mr. Engel regarding to staff items? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion and a second to adjourn. Chris Hands
I move we adjourn.
and Bob Pape. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.